Hello, the 8th question in our sure short question series. A compound contains 4.07% of hydrogen, 24.7% of carbon and 71.65% of 65% of chlorine. Its molecular mass is 98.6. What are the empirical formula and molecular formula? What are the empirical formula and molecular formula? So this is the most simple question and usually this is asked for 3 and 4 mark question. So listen carefully what we have to do. If we get a question like this, prepare a column like this, then it will be most easy way to determine the answer. First of all, write the first column as element. We know which all elements are given: carbon, hydrogen and chlorine. And the second column you have to write the percentage composition which is given in the question. So 24.27 plus 24.27. And this is 4.07 and that is 71.65. Now next column we have to write the atomic mass. We know the atomic mass of carbon is 12, hydrogen is 1 and chlorine is 35.5. Now what we have to do, this much data we are having. Now we have to determine the empirical formula. First we have to determine the empirical formula, then from that we have to determine the molecular formula. So first of all what we have to do, you have to divide percentage divided by atomic mass. Atomic mass we should know, sometimes in the question paper they are given, but that does like carbon, hydrogen, chlorine, nitrogen, all these basic elements we should know. So it is carbon is 12, hydrogen is 1 and chlorine is 35.4. So first of all we will divide the percentage divided by atomic mass. So we are dividing 24.27 by 12, it is 2.02, 4.07 divided by 1 is 4.07 and 71.65 divided by 35.5 is 2.02. Then the next column is simple ratio. What does it mean? Because we are getting different values here. So we have to make them into the most simplified one, most simplified value we have to get. For that what we have to do? We have to determine which is the smallest number of all these. We have 3 or 4, we have to determine. If we have more than numbers, we have to determine which is the smallest number. Here, the smallest number is 2.02. So, divide all these numbers with 2.02. What we have to do? We determine this percentage divided by atomic mass and we are getting a value. If we are getting more values, check all the values and determine which is the least value of that. Divide all the numbers with that least value. So here it is 2.02. So first we will divide 2.02 divided by 2.02. We are getting simple ratio as 1. Then 4.07 divided by 2.02, it is 2. It is approximately 2. 2.00. So we will consider as 2. Then 2.02 divided by 2.02, again 1. So we got the simplest ratio. Sometimes the simplest ratio, if we divide like this, we will again get 1.5 or something like that. At that time, what we have to do? We have to convert them into a whole number just by multiplying it with a number. So that's why again I wrote the column like simplest whole number. Here we don't get any decimal value or nothing is there. So we can write or we can copy the same number here as simplest whole number ratio. In some cases, if we are getting 1.5 or 2.5, in that cases, we have to multiply them with 2 and make them as a whole number and we will write here in that way. So here we don't have any decimal, we got the whole number here itself. So we don't want to multiply or do anything. So we will just copy down the simplest whole number as 1, 2, 1. Now what we got? We got C, carbon 1, hydrogen 2 and chlorine 1. So now we will write the empirical formula as CH2Cl. Correct? Carbon 1, hydrogen 2 and chlorine. So what is your empirical formula? This is your empirical formula. What is the next question? You have to determine the molecular formula. We know the formula to determine the molecular formula. That is, molecular formula is equal to empirical formula into N. Empirical formula into N. So what is this N? N is equal to molar mass divided by empirical formula mass. N is equal to molar mass divided by empirical formula mass. So where is molar mass? You look at the question, it has given as molecular mass is equal to 98.6. Now we have to determine empirical formula mass. How we will determine? Empirical formula mass is equal to, this is our empirical formula. So carbon is 12, hydrogen, there are 2 hydrogen, 2 into 1 plus chlorine is 35.5 and the value we are getting is 49.5. So we got 49.5. Now we got molecular mass, we got empirical formula mass. Now what do we have to determine? We have to determine N. How we will determine N? N is equal to molecular mass divided by empirical formula mass. That is 98.6 divided by 49.5. This is 1.9999. So we can take it as 2. It will be 2. Okay. So we got the N value. Now what is the next step? We know empirical formula into N. What is the N here? 2. So the molecular formula is C2H4Cl2. What is this? C2H4Cl2. Clear how to determine the empirical formula and the molecular formula?